Hi there, bonsai lovers. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Bonsai Stuff podcast. I'm Scott Martin from Bonsai Matsu. And as always, I love your company. Thank you very much for continuing to return and listen to me ramble on about all this bonsai stuff. Now, I'll make no apologies for it. I have spent a little bit of time in Italy, so a couple of things have happened. I've got my hands are waving around right now while I'm doing the podcast. I've developed a bit of a belly from all the pasta that I've eaten, but I've also got a lot of analogies that relate to life in Italy and bonsai as I see it. And I've also had a few really fortunate experiences while I've been here to spend some time with a bonsai master, to visit a magnificent bonsai museum with a tree in there that's over 1,000 years old. I've also got to go to the second largest bonsai show in Italy, and that'll all be coming out over the next couple of weeks, having a chat about that, because I found it to be a really, really special time, to be honest. Something that I've wanted to do for a long time, having spent time in Japan and studying there and doing and meeting different people in Australia and a few other places. I've really felt the urge to get a bit of European experience in the bonsai and see how they do things, and also get a bit of an understanding as to their mindset for trees, because it's a bit different to the Japanese, the way they've done things. And I can see that their evolution in bonsai life has happened relatively quickly because of the amazing material that they're able to access around the place and get their hands on. And it's just incredible. So I want to get into this podcast now and talk about a few different things, like when is too much of a good thing bad for you, and also, yep, folks, it's that time where it's pine time, and we need to pull our fingers out and start getting into it. So I want to talk a little bit about pines, not just black pines, but white pines, mugos, Scots, whatever, all pines basically. It's conifer time for us, so we need to get into that. The fertilising sequence of things, you should have hopefully done your last round of autumn fertilising for now, but really whether that's going to be effective or not is going to be truly dependent on the weather. But I still have undertaken it and still got into it. But let's get into this podcast without any further ado, because I think it's going to be a good one. Right, so let's start with the first link to my time in the beautiful country of Italy. I've ascertained that bonsai is like eating with an Italian family in Rome. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It just goes on and on and on. And if you get too big an eye on the food in the first course, then you'll certainly struggle through the second, third, fourth and fifth sessions of eating. But it's true. Bonsai is one of these things that we start with. Well, for me, I never truly have the intention of finishing. I love to continue that progress and improve things. Go back to episode 1 this year, and it was talk about my goal for the year is every single tree in my collection takes a step forward. And if you put a badge on things and say they're finished, well, then really that can't happen, because it's already done. It's the best it can possibly be, and that step forward really is going to maybe be a sideward shuffle. So anyway, what I want to talk about is too much of a good thing bad for you? And this comes from lots of messages that I get, which I love. Thank you very much. If you have reached out to me ever, then thank you very much. You're a legend, and it's awesome. Hopefully I could help and make your bonsai life that little bit better. If you haven't and you're thinking about it, please do. Please stretch out through any of the social medias and get hold of me, and I promise I will do as much as I possibly can to help you. But this thought about too much of a good thing being bad for you came about because obviously we're just past Easter, and too much of the chocolate material over the Easter period. Yep, sure, that could be considered bad for you, possibly. And most times it is bad for you. It's not good. But bonsai is too much of it a bad thing for you, and I don't know really, because I straight away wrote down, yes, when I was doing my notes for the podcast, saying it definitely is a bad thing because you'll become inundated with work. You'll start to regret it. You'll look at your trees and go, you're a burden. I don't want you. I don't want to do work, and then you'll do very little on it. But I think the opposite can apply also, and this is from my experience and what I've been through with my bonsai life. I think at many times, including right now, there's probably too many trees in my collection, as I'm sure most people listening to this podcast will confess to as well. But if you have a lot of trees, you harness a lot of experience. Having 10 trees of the same variety that possibly look the same may seem like a bit of a no-win situation because they're all going to develop exactly the same way, but they don't. They're very different. And when you're repotting these things, you'll see that even though from what's above the surface may look different, or may be the same, what's below the surface is very different. How you treat it's very different as well. And then you get to take the opportunity to change things, change angles, and learn from that experience as to how to adjust the tree's rotation in a pot and its angle in a pot as well, and what you have to do with aftercare and preparing those roots. And sometimes you do it wrong, and next time when you do it, you correct your processes, and the tree doesn't take as much of a setback from excessive root removal just to look good in its new position. So I think that there's a lot you can learn, and also the different variety of trees that are available to us. It's incredible. I looked at this big bonsai show that I went to. I looked at the material that obviously a lot of it is collected material. A lot of it's ground grown, a lot of it's grafted, and initially you're blown away by the quality. And you think about it, these trees that have been taken out of the ground that are hundreds of years old, at least, some of them are possibly even more, that you can, with enough euros in your back pocket, you can get access to. But you think about going from something like that to what we have available in Australia, and we need to be on a course in Australia, which we are definitely. I'm not using this as a bash Australia's bonsai. I think that we're doing it a really good way in that we have to take steps at some point or another to say, right, this is our starting point. This is where we go forward. This is how we go forward. And we ground grow things, and we propagate, and we grow by seed, and we support nurseries that do all this sort of stuff. And this is where this too much of a good thing being bad for you, I don't think it is, because if you go to different bonsai nurseries and they're propagating and producing all these different variety of species, which, there's hundreds, literally hundreds and hundreds of these things that are available to you, then we can all learn from these things. And while you might look at them and some might be starters, and there's all the different native varieties that we've got that we take as tube stock, all that stuff, we've got to start somewhere with it, and we will get there. It might not be that we can legally go and dig trees out of the ground that are hundreds. We shouldn't either, but we can't dig trees out of the ground that are 200 years old. But this is where I feel that looking at this region of Europe, where their border control for transportation of trees between locations is nothing, is non-existent. A lot of people from Belgium and Germany had come to this bonsai show to sell trees. So this stock's travelled a very long way to get here, and it's available for you to take home and start making masterpieces within 3 to 10 years, let's say. These things will be absolutely incredible, but we can't do that in Australia. We've got states in Australia we can't even take trees into. Within our own country, we can't get access to them. So we've got to make a decision, and somewhere along the way we have to say, well, this is our starting point, and that happened a long time ago. I'm not saying that it's new or that it's something that I've instigated. It's a lot of people a long time before me have made that decision, and they're to be applauded for it, and we should support them. And this is where this access to these different varieties, it's something that we should be learning with, how they respond in our climate and in our local environment, and share them at a local level at your clubs, and what works well and what doesn't. travelling through Italy, through the different locations because of their geography and topography and how the weather fluctuates from place to place. In Milan, where I went to see Salvatore Libraci, and his garden struggles with certain varieties because of the climate that he's got there. But the fields around his nursery are all perfect for growing rice. I think he said it's either the largest or second largest region for growing rice in Italy, which just astounded me. But then it made a lot of sense as to why certain varieties like olives wouldn't do very well in his yard because of all that humidity and moisture. And, so even though you travel, maybe an hour in a different direction from there, and it'd be perfect for olives right where he is, that microclimate, or that, not so necessarily microclimate, but that climate that he's in has a massive impact. So I think that if we can extend our range of trees in Australia and all, get into it. Don't think that, you don't have to have one of every variety. You're not collecting animals to get on the ark in the eventuation of a flood. But I'm saying that if we sort of extend and have a lot of bonsai in your collection, even if they are the same variety, you can always move them on somewhere down the track. You can take cuttings off, a trident maple and put 30 into a pot and 25 strike. Well, that's fantastic, but you don't necessarily want 25 more trident maples in your collection. Grow them, learn from them, get that experience, see how they're all unique, see how they're all different, develop them, and then at a point where you make a decision where you get down to 5 of those 5, keep one that becomes a brilliant tree that stays in your collection, move the rest on. It's good for bonsai. It's good for our bonsai community. People are propagating and growing and selling on trees at all different stages of their development, because it means that there's more opportunity for more people to get involved and to experience different trees in their own collection. And that knowledge, bonsai knowledge, I'm just looking at my notes, this is episode 17 of season 7, so the 7th year of being rambling on about bonsai stuff to the bonsai world as much as I possibly can. And I think that sharing of as much as I have in my tiny little brain about bonsai to as many people that will possibly listen, not only does it make me feel fantastic, but it makes the bonsai world better. There's no way anyone should leave this mortal coil without passing on as much information to as many people as they possibly can, when it's the correct information, the correct format and the correct process to people about bonsai, because it's the only way we as a bonsai world, not just localised within your little area, but in a bonsai world, this is the only way we'll go forward. And information flows so readily now that there's no way that if you've got something that you can pass on, that you should hold it back. It should be shared in any format you possibly can. And again, I'll give out the warning: be careful which format you do it in, because there's some pretty toxic places around the world online that this can happen. But I think that we're in a good space, and too much of bonsai being a bad thing, I don't think so. When your bonsai hobby becomes an addiction, then that's not a bad thing as far as I'm concerned. I'm an enabler. I'll support you all the way through. Every step of the way, I'll be in the background saying, "Go on, get another one. You've got room on the bench. Extend the bench. You can fit more in your backyard." But no, I think I know I have talked in the past about reducing collection sizes, and I want to counter that this time, because I don't want you feeling guilty if you keep buying trees. I think deep down, that's what we all do. We might go through a phase where we clean a bench off, but then you walk past material like I've walked past in north of Italy, up in the Dolomites, this bonsai show in the sales collection, the biggest sales area I've ever seen. But you walk past it and think, yep, I'd buy that. Definitely don't need any more trees. But if I was living in this region, I can tell you there'd be about 30 more large trees at my property right now. Anyway, let's move on and let's start talking about pines, eh? black pines, red pines, white pines, Mugo pines, Scots pines, you name it. Any kind of pine. I love them. I really do. There's something about them that I think is magnificent. I love conifers in general. I love, that I love everything. I love the natives as well. But right now for me is a really, it's an important time when I look back along my bonsai path where I think I've done and learnt the most in pretty quick succession is working on pine varieties. And this period of time right now, I find from very late in autumn, so into the last month of autumn now, I find that period from very late autumn till the end of sort of winter, late-ish winter, I find it really important that I have a 2 to 2.5 month window for myself to get all my work done on my pines in that period, because after that period I find I start getting into the repotting sequence, which is towards the latter part of winter for me. And while I can still do pines in that period, I find I get pretty busy. So, I want to preempt this, and I'll finish off this section of the podcast with it as well, to say there's no rush. Even though you're listening to this hearing me say that it's time to get in there and start working on your pines, there's no rush. You've got months and months to do this. So don't put yourself under any pressure, but it's just timely that I think I give it a bit of a green light for myself and for everybody in around the area of Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, that this late autumn period, we're start of May. So for me, I don't normally talk months, but for me, generally May and June are my main pine working times to make sure I've got everything right. So I just want to run through a few things that, just to set a checklist for you, I suppose, before you do go out and start getting into your pines. That, talked a couple of weeks ago about cleaning up the tools, and it's bloody great. I've had some awesome feedback on that the tools have been cleaned up, which is awesome. But this time for your pines, it's a perfect time. It's an essential time. It's not just a time where you think this is where people make their pines look brilliant. Doesn't matter what stage your pine's at, it's still a really important time, because you get to get in there and clean them up and open them up. You get to remove dense needles where possibly they're too strong. You get to leave needles where they're a little bit weaker, so you can sort of set that I talk about the set of scales, the balancing act that we've got with our trees. Pines, this is the perfect time to get in there and possibly pluck a few more needles in the super strong areas and leave more needles in those weaker areas. So it'll take resources then from the stronger areas and push them to the weaker areas, which no matter what stage of development you're looking at your pines, that's super critical. For instance, let's say it's a tiny little bit of tube stock that you've got that's just starting its life as a bonsai. Then you'll look at it. I guarantee you there'll be lots of buds around the base. There'll be little buds popping all over the thing, but there'll be a super strong candle at the top, or a number of candles at the top, that'll be getting all the juice. What will happen in years to come is those buds, those potential branches that you look at down the bottom, or sacrifice branches, or however you see them, they won't get enough resources. So therefore, there's a good possibility that they will die, and everything will be taken from that lower region and pushed to the top, because tree's objective, simple, get as much sunlight as you possibly can and get as tall as you possibly can, so you're not competing for resources with other trees in your vicinity, and get there as quick as you can. So at anything's expense to achieve that goal, do it. It doesn't matter if those lower branches die, because once it starts getting sun at the top, it'll start spreading out its apex, start pushing out lower branches, and it'll be off and racing. But it doesn't care that part of your future bonsai design is to make it a beautiful tree with these lovely little branches. So therefore, what you need to do is you need to push resources to that lower area, and you do that by needle reduction and pruning in that stronger area on your pines. So it's super important that you clean them up and removing needles from underside of branches, letting sunlight and air into those inner areas as well to make sure that you're going to get back budding when spring comes and summer and over the next year or 2 years or whatever it is. You're not going to get dieback for any buds that are in that area, because anything that's growing that's shaded, you know how it works. It's not gonna sit well long term. So you might find there's an issue with that coming. So needle plucking, obviously, and cleaning up, also great for branch selection. Just keep in mind that guideline, that 1 to 2 that I bang on about with a lot of trees, not necessarily natives, but key structure, key branches. Look for bar branching. That is, more than 2 things happening. So the trunk plus 2 branches, that's 3 things happening in that one area. You need to get it down. So I suggest that you aim to get down to only having 2 things. So the trunk plus a branch. Or if it's a branch that divides, you might get to a big junction where there's 4 or 5 branches from one area. Come back to just 2 in that one junction. Much easier, much less congestion. Might look a bit open and hollow for now, but that's what I recommend. And thinking of that too, it'll be something that I bounce back about over the next couple of podcasts. But seeing different styling techniques in this bonsai show, there was a big area that I could go to that had massive hall, and there was, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 different trees being worked on by different teams, and those teams were led by a bonsai professional with his team of, or her team of helpers, and they would be styling a tree. They had all day to do it, and they would, at the end of the day, have people like me who'd paid to go along to this demonstration would vote on the best tree for the day. And when I looked at those trees, as well as trees in the exhibition, part of the European styling is not so much about, and this is a broad brush, this is my opinion on, not always the case, but sometimes I would come across a tree that would have compromises where, that is a branch or a bunch of branches in one area where I would have gone and thinned it out. They have kept the branches and they just simply manipulate them, so the overall perception or view of the tree from a distance was nice and full. Whereas for me, and that's okay, like I don't have anything against that, but my methodology, my way of thinking is, good structure is good bonsai. It's something that I was always taught, and I follow religiously, to the point that I would have possibly sacrificed the fullness of the design for more of a pleasing future of the tree. Not a now thing, but a 2 years from now thing, to make it a stronger, better bonsai. And possibly that would be something that happens after this demonstration. So it's not necessary that I think that they would not do that somewhere down the track, but it's just not something that's been done for now. So I would use this time to prune appropriately as you see fit, but my recommendation is follow that guideline of 1 to 2. Get in there and do some wiring, styling, shape the trees. They're perfect. They're so pliable. They're so forgiving. Bending. This is the time where I do the majority of my bending of my pines to, not wanting to sound brutal, but rip and tear and stretch and manipulate and get into position. Now is the time that I'd be doing that sort of thing as well, with protection, of course, and with proper techniques. Deadwood cleaning, that's definitely something which is on the cards for now. I think any time where I do serious work on my trees and I get them in front of me for any period of time, I'll be looking at cleaning up the deadwood as well. But I'm looking through my scribble notes for this section, and I've written down, seriously make them beautiful. And that's so true. Don't rush the process. Enjoy the process. Don't count the number of trees left to be done. Just focus on that tree that's in front of you right now and make it as perfect as it can possibly be. And your pines at this time of the year, they just look magnificent. Be careful of breaking needles. If you feel yourself getting spiked by the needles, stop, go at it another way, underneath the branch coming up rather than going top down when you're wiring and shaping and moving. If you feel yourself get pricked, as I've said many times before, you'll be breaking those needles and damaging them. So just be careful, be slow, be delicate, but be deliberate in what you're doing. Now's the time to do it, because after decandling, especially black pines or red pines, post decandling, you'll find that now is a really good time for it, because the growth period is pretty much coming to an end. So even if you feel like it's got a little bit longer to go, any time for me, right from now through till the end of June, so start of May till end of June is a go time for me to get in there and really work your pines and enjoy it. It's a process that I wait for every year. I really love this time of year, and I love getting people excited about it, because it's a beautiful time for you to put some serious effort into your pines and get the rewards for them in the very near future. But I enjoy the last little bit of our autumn or fall period, depending on where you're listening from. And I know it sounds funny to people in Australia, and I've got a message saying, "What do you say fall?" And I've been sent messages from people in the Northern Hemisphere that wait 6 months or are 6 months behind with my podcasts, so they can listen to them at the appropriate time. So hence the reason for talking about it. So anyway, it's a great time. I really love this time. Your trees should have some beautiful colour. If not, don't worry. There's always next year. Seasons change. Things happen. Too wet, not cold enough. All that has an impact on your autumn colour. But don't worry about it. Enjoy the time. I've got more tales to tell from my time in the beautiful country of Italy that I love and feel a strong connection to. And I will have that coming to you in the coming podcasts, because there's some interesting stuff that I've learnt and that I'll be passing on to you as well. But another couple of things that I've learnt from my time in Italy is that stoplights don't exist, line markings are invisible, and every intersection is a game of bluff. So it's I think I've got a few more grey hairs on my head since I've been here, and I've been a passenger in a lot of vehicles. It's certainly been interesting, but I've loved it. So enjoy the time with your trees. Get into your pines. Reach out if you need any help or you're unsure of anything, because I'm more than happy to help. Subscribers, I'll finish by saying my continued heartfelt thanks and great love and appreciation for you. If I can ever help you with anything, please just reach out and let me know. Until next time, as always, happy bonsai.